Peace and light, family. I hope that you are well. Today has been a very interesting day. I've engaged in like a lot of great conversations about like just the progress of the Black community and the LGBTQ plus community. And I'm just gonna refer to the community as LGBTQ plus because I do know that there have been a lot of other letters added like the I, A, and I'm just not fully updated on every single letter and what every single letter means. So I'm just gonna say LGBTQ plus, okay? But I was having a lot of conversations today about the Black community and the LGBTQ plus community and how those two communities are intersectioned, I guess I should say, intersectioned, right? And I'm like, I had to think about the word because for a while, honestly, and I'm just keeping it real, right? And I always strive to keep it real on my channel, but I feel like for a while, the LGBTQ plus community and the Black community have been colliding. I'm sorry, y'all probably see like a lot of smoke. I'm like burning incense and I have a smoke bowl going and everything, but my apologies for the smoke if it's interfering in your visibility of me. But yeah, so for a while I felt like the Black community and the LGBTQ plus community have collided. So at first I was gonna say I was having a lot of conversations about the collisions between the Black community and the LGBTQ plus community because for a while that's what it's been. But really today it was more of this, several discussions about the progress that the Black community has been making when it has come to understanding the LGBTQ plus community and learning to accept and open up to the idea of learning about what it means to identify on the spectrum of LGBTQ plus, right? Even like the young children. So we have a trans student in my school. I work with a middle school and we have a trans student. And I had to tell him today, like, I say years from now, you are going to receive awards for what you are doing because he is the first trans student in the school. There has never been a trans student or any student who has even brought up the discussion of being trans before him. This school is a charter school, so these kids have grown up together. They have been together since they were 4 years old, some of them. Some of them started in Head Start together, but most of them have known each other since at least kindergarten, so they've grown up together. And this is the first student to come out as trans and who has actively advocated for himself to be referred to by a sorry y'all, somebody was calling me, but be referred to as by a male name, also be referred to as by the he him pronouns and so on and so forth. So this is the first student to actually like take that step to say like, look, I'm going to push thinking here and force you guys to come out of the box and accept me for who I am, and I'm not going to respond or answer to anything else. And honestly, like when I first started at this school, which was in August of 2019, so last year, there was a lot of pushback. Like I had to explain to the other students, like, listen, if he wants to be referred to as him, so it's a trans. I honestly don't know how to say this. She was born a girl and she's transitioned to male. So I don't know if I say this is a trans male because she's transitioned to male, or if this is a trans female. Please, somebody, let me know how I'm supposed to word it. But right now, I think it's trans male. So she is trans male. So I had to explain to the other students like, listen, we have to respect his pronouns. He wants to be referred to as him. We have to respect it. And yet, also understand that it's going to take you guys time. No one is going to be perfect. You guys have grown up with him, so you only know him by his female name. That's the name that you know. But please do your best to be respectful and, try to call him by his preferred name. Try to use the proper pronouns. And the students was like definitely pushing back. Like, absolutely not. That's a girl. That's how we know him. Like, she's a girl. That's what she is. My mother told me that she's a girl. And honestly, like, I had to step back initially from the conversation and go meet with my team to see how we were going to tackle this. Because I am all for respecting parents' rights to raise their children. And understanding that this is middle school and this is a very precious age. And these children are 11 and 12 years old, which is around the same age, which is the same age that Dwyane Wade's son is, right? Or Dwyane Wade's daughter, rather. So I it interesting that Dwyane Wade's child, I'm gonna just say child because I'm still working on respecting the gender pronouns and nouns and all of that stuff. So I'm just gonna try to say child. But I find it interesting that Dwyane Wade's child is 12 years old and is very much like being as just as open as the student as my school is. And I'm making this comparison really to explain to you guys how in the community that I work in, where you have parents, you have students, and you have teachers, principals, staff, multiple people who all have had to collectively come together and face this issue. So I am loving the fact that this conversation, as we are going through it in our school, hey Shauna, how as we are going through it in our school, is also a conversation that is happening worldwide in the media, right? Thankfully for Dwyane Wade opening up today, I believe he was on the Ellen show and opened up about parenting a trans child. And something that he said was, he said that he referred to him and Gabrielle Union as let's do biz. Oh, thank you. Okay, that's him. But yeah, so he opened up about parenting a trans child and essentially was just like, him and Gabrielle Union are proud parents of a child who is in the LGBTQ plus community, and that they are very much accepting. And he also opened up and shared about how the moment that his son, his child was born a boy. So the moment that his son came home and opened up about being trans and made the decision that he wanted to be referred to by the pronouns she and her, and also decided to go by the name of Zaya. So she was deciding to change her name. And he said that that they as a family are working together to open up and accept it. And I really I'm glad that he has opened up this conversation as a Black male, because whether we want to accept it or not, the LGBTQIA plus community is here to stay. And this conversation is going to have to be had no matter where you are, no matter what area you work in or live in or thrive in. This conversation is going to come up before you. It's happening right now in schools. I can attest to that we're having this conversation in schools. It's happening in the media. On top of that, it's going to start happening in church, whether you want to believe it or not. And it's a conversation that a lot of people have been having for a while, but it's happening. That's him. I'm going to answer that question in a minute. So it's happening rapidly. And to answer the question, that's him. So that's him asked me, am I a part of the LGBTQIA community? I prefer men. However, I have misfit tattooed on my arm. I'm very much not into, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. I'm not into labeling the labels of anything. I'm not into labeling anything. The only thing I identify is a Black woman. Okay, I'm a spirit being in living in human form. That's what I always say. That's my identification. That's it. But when it comes to sexuality, I prefer men. That's just my preference, always has been. However, the reason I don't like to do the labels is just simply because I'm realizing how toxic even that label can be, and how exclusionary that label can be. And when I say exclusionary, I mean there is a very much negative association with the term straight. And honestly, I've been ashamed. I'm just being real with y'all. I've been ashamed to use the term straight because so many straight people, I feel, or people who identify as straight, feel like they have to defend the term. And I'm not defensive when it comes to sexuality. I don't feel ill or that's disgusting about anybody's choices. My attitude is simply this, and I don't want this chat or this discussion to become a thing of where people feel like they have the right to bash the LGBTQ community. Hey, Kelly, I don't want this discussion to be an open forum for people to spread homophobic hate or any form of homophobia. I truly believe that love is an energy, and I'm not a person who believes that oh, being gay is bad or LGBTQ is bad. That's just not my personal belief. I have a lot of friends who are in the LGBTQ plus community. I have family members who are in the community. So I am very much all the way here for supporting the LGBTQIA community. And I know that that conversation has been very like taboo in the woke community. Okay, there's a lot of people who are like hashtag woke who feel like, well, you can't support black people and support the LGBTQ community. That thinking is toxic, because if you're rooting for black folks, then you are rooting for LGBTQIA plus people simply because they are black too. When I spoke about the difference between being feminist and womanist, something I talked about was intersectionality. And sexuality is one of those intersections. You can be black, you can be woman, and you can be gay. You can be black, you can be male, and you can be gay. You can be black, you can be Christian, you can be male, and you can be gay, all at the same damn time. And that can manifest into one body. And I don't believe in imposing my personal beliefs and my personal moral values onto anyone else. So let me just make that caveat. The way that I choose to live my life as I prefer men. But I am not a person who I believe that everybody in the world has to live the way that I choose to live. I'm not gay, but that's my thing. That's my choice. I believe that everyone has the right to live their truth and make their choices, which brings me right back to the Dwyane Wade, Gabrielle Union, and Zaya situation. So there's two conversations. Thank you, Shauna. I'm glad to know that there's more of us out here who feel like this. And because honestly, as a black community, we have to start to open up our mind and open up our identity of what, or our definition of what black looks like, or what black is, or how black should show up. I think that people have a very toxic and exclusionary way of thinking about what black is, especially in the hashtag woke community. And I say hashtag woke because being woke right now is trendy. Honestly, it's trendy. Wearing kente cloth and patchouli oil and burning frankincense and carrying incense right now is trendy. Rocking crystals is trendy. All of that stuff is trendy. But it's the difference between being woke and aware, which is a whole nother discussion. A lot of people are hashtag woke, but it's a lot of folks who ain't aware of what's going on and when you need to implement the knowledge that you so-called have, right? So if we are really knowledgeable people, one thing we should know is that dividing our community is even more toxic. Dividing your own community is more toxic than anyone else dividing the community for you. When you try to exclude the LGBTQ plus community, you are excluding and dividing your own black community, which is toxic. So I'm not for that. But with this conversation, the thing that I'm appreciating about Dwyane Wade is he is honestly like, I was gonna say he's the first black male to like openly accept his trans son. However, we gotta get that title to Magic Johnson, baby, okay? Because EJ Johnson been out here serving for a minute now, okay? EJ Johnson kind of opened that door up. So I got to even backtrack myself. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. They said they love listening to me. I appreciate that. But yeah, EJ Johnson been serving for a minute, okay? And Magic Johnson has been open about loving his son anyway. But Dwyane Wade's child is the first black child to come out as trans openly, black child in Hollywood to come out as trans openly. You said I'm so enlightened. I'm on my way, honestly. Like, I'm on my way. I honestly don't consider myself enlightened yet. I feel like I'm on my way and always and forever seeking enlightenment. But that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, so hey. So that's the interesting part. Like, when you have Dwyane Wade's child, and once again, for those of you who are late to the live, I said that I was gonna just refer to him as child, because although he did say Dwyane Wade's son, Dwyane Wade's son said that he wants to be referred to as she, him. I don't know if that, I haven't heard, and I tried to research to see if Dwyane Wade is referring to him as his daughter yet, and I just want to be respectful. So I'm just gonna say his child. But yeah, so Dwyane Wade's child is the first one to come out as trans. So this conversation of a child transitioning openly in the black community is now becoming a mainstream conversation, which I think is a beautiful thing. What I'm loving about the conversation, though, is that it is forcing us to discuss how we feel about trans children. not just trans people in general, which that's a conversation, but I feel like that's a conversation that's been going on for a while, but trans children. Because if we backtrack this discussion, people have always debated on whether or not you are born gay or is it a choice. Are you born gay or is it a choice? Honestly, you guys, I've done a lot of research, and when I was in college, I had to do a project on and this is just like a little side note and something to think about. I had to do a project on this birth disorder where a male can be born with two X's and a Y, and a female can be born with two X's and a half Y, so an extra chromosome, which can present as either having extra estrogen or extra testosterone in a woman or in a male, right? So we really got to think about that. And that's literally like a birth. We can research it. I believe it was called Klinefelter's, I believe. But we really like research that and then come back with the conversation of, do you think that people can be born gay or born this way? And not to say that I don't believe that it's a disorder. I just believe I personally believe some people are born gay. Now, does that mean that everyone in the LGBTQ community was born that way? I don't think so. I don't think everyone was born that way, but I do believe that you can be born gay. And I don't believe it is up to us to choose who is and who isn't born that way, who's making a choice to identify as LGBTQ, and who's just born that way and doing that. I don't think when people focus on loving and nourishing their own energy, you don't have time to concern yourself with others. Say it again, Kelly. Say it again, Kelly. That's a fact. Okay, that is truly a fact, Kelly. Yes, when you are nurturing yourself, you don't have time to be concerned about the choices that other people are making. So I don't feel like it's up to us to choose who is or who isn't born gay. That's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, the LGBTQ plus community is here to stay. And something that we as Black people, or in all people, but specifically for the Black community, something that we have to start doing is just really exploring how we feel about it, how we feel about accepting our folks. Because they are our folks. And Dwyane Wade is being such an open book about how he learned to accept his son choosing to transition. Because that's a serious choice. It's a meme going around, and it was kind of funny. I probably shouldn't laugh, y'all, but it was kind of funny to me. The meme was like, imagine having a whole gender reveal and then your child decides to transition at 15. And I just thought that was funny, because that's like, Dwyane Wade had a son. He had a son for years, and his son is now 12 years old and has decided that he wants to transition. And I love the fact that Dwyane Wade, although I'm sure as a parent, I'm not a parent, but I'm sure as a parent, he had an idea of who his son would become. He had hopes of who his son would become. And I'm sure that this was not in the plan for his son. But what I love is that he is so open about accepting his child for exactly who she, respecting her pronouns, who she has chosen to become. And when I say chosen to become, it's not to say like, oh, chosen to become in a way of she's not born this way, she's choosing to be this way. I'm saying chosen to become because Zaya, which is the name that Dwyane Wade's child chose, Zaya spoke out about making the decision to be openly trans in America today, and chose to live her truth. And that's what this conversation needs to be about, like choosing to live your truth. And Dwyane Wade has decided to accept that. Gabrielle Union as well. And his mother, or her mother, I'm sorry, Zaya, her mother as well. Because we do have to remember that Zaya is the child from Dwyane Wade's first marriage. So we always want to show love and respect to his birth mother, as well as Dwyane Wade, as well as Gabrielle Union as his stepmother, right? Or a second mother. I prefer to call stepmothers second mothers for those who choose to step up in that way. But yes, so I love the fact that them as a tribe have come together and helped her realize that it is okay for her to live her truth. Because you can only imagine what the children who may be feeling these feelings are experiencing when they don't have a family who is as willing to accept her truth as Zaya's family is. See, Dwyane Wade's child can be an example of what it looks like for someone to have family and tribal support. And in any way your truth chooses to manifest. Because for some people, their truth is not being trans. For some people, their truth is not being a part of the LGBTQIA community. For some people, their truth is simply choosing to be a rapper as opposed to a doctor or lawyer the way your parents wanted you to be. For some people, their truth is choosing to go natural as opposed to, or choosing to cut your hair as opposed to growing it long and straight like your mama wanted it to be when you was younger. Your truth can be whatever it is for you. But most of us, especially those of us who are considered conscious, at some point had to make a decision to go against the grain. And what I love is the fact that if we just remove the trans, remove that whole, which is a valuable discussion, but for a second, let's think outside of that category. Living your truth is simply just choosing to go against the grain of what everybody around you expects you to be. From society to your tribe to your outer community, people have so many expectations of other people. And what I love that Zaya is opening up the conversation of is the value of having tribal support when everyone makes that decision to live their truth. I'm pretty sure a lot of us can identify with that moment of when we chose to go against the grain of our family norms. Whether you chose to change religions, whether it was you choosing to go natural, whether it was you choosing to not go to college or to go to college. For some of us, it's choosing to leave the hood, choosing to leave your block. Whatever that choice was that looked like you going against the grain or going against the expectation of your family, they are pushing the value of having that tribal support. And they're pushing us to overtly support our tribes even more. Support, especially our youth. Support our youth even more when it comes to the topic of, listen, be you, live your truth. So often we tell kids, like, you just got to be who you are and you got to live your truth and do what you do. But then we still, without even realizing it, place these expectations on them of who we want them to be. Oh, be a doctor. Oh, be a lawyer. Oh, you good at basketball. You should play ball. Oh, you good at football. You should play football. Take it seriously. Oh, you real smart. You better go to college, without even realizing it. And it's all with good intention. It's not to say that we have bad intention when we do these things, but without even realizing it, we're placing pressure on them to fit into the box that we have designed. Let's really consider that, right? Let's consider, like, instead of pushing children, instead of pushing our family members, our tribe members to go a certain way, let's ask them who they want to be. Let's support them as they manifest into who they are. That makes us all individual freedom to be who and what we can. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's really truly the word, the freedom. Giving people the freedom to live their truth by not saying, oh, you're good at this, you should do that. Oh, you look great in this, you should wear that. Oh, this, you know what, this religion really helped me. You should practice this. We do that a lot in the spiritual community. Yo, girl, yoga is everything. You should start doing yoga. Girl, let me tell you about these insects. Girl, you gotta burn some sage, honey. You better burn sage, girl. You want to get that, you better burn sage. Sage may not be what they need. The medicine that cures your illness ain't gonna heal the world. It may heal some other people, but that may not be the healing remedy that everybody needs. Wade's family pushed that kid to act that way. He didn't decide that by himself. Okay, you know what, Tom? Let's talk about that. So Tom said he feels like the Wade family pushed him. Something that I feel like and honestly, let's discuss it, Tom. I'm always open to learning and I'm always open to having these discussions. And that's why I love live so much, because I can see y'all comments. And sometimes I even change my mind and I'm learning new information. But you said that you feel like the Wade family pushed Zaya to have these feelings or to express this way. But what is the definition of pushing? What does it mean to push him to? Do you think that Dwyane Wade told his son, you better be gay, you better be trans, you better decide to become a girl? Do you think that that's what he told him? Because see, when you say they pushed him this way, that is what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is that you think that he said this is what you better be. When if we use like our logic and reason, do you really think that's what Right. Do you really think that that's what he said? Do you really think he said, "Oh, you better be this, you better be that"? Honestly, as a father, because Dwyane Wade has been open of like about like when my son was born, I didn't think that this is where we will go. However, it's not my role to travel. It's only my job to help him and support him as he navigates his own journey. And he said this years ago when his son first opened up about having certain feelings. It is only recently that his son has decided to transition and is choosing the pronouns she, her, and has decided to change names. So, right, years. Thank you, RJ. So I don't think that he's pushed them. I don't think they've pushed them that way. But honestly, that's the mentality that I'm speaking about. The mentality that I'm speaking about is, without even realizing it, that comment alone may push one of your family members to not live in their truth. When things like this happen, and our young children hear us speak about the Wade family and they like, "Oh, that's crazy. He shouldn't be doing that. That child don't feel like that." It could be a child around you who may be having these feelings. And because you are expressing an non-acceptance of Dwyane Wade's child, you may, without even realizing it, you are teaching the children around you that you can't come to me with your truth. And we got to be mindful of that. Kids are listening to everything we do. So the conversation I was having with my students, because for some of y'all who are just now getting to the live, in the beginning I opened up about one of my, I work with a middle school, one of my students who's 13 years old, 7th grade, and she has transitioned or is transitioning. And unlike Dwyane Wade, my student doesn't have a family that supports her transition. So she was born female. She's trans male. She has made the decision very clear that she wants to go by he, him pronouns. She has changed her name and has chosen a male name. And in the very beginning of the school year this year, this was a thing. And she made the decision very early. And I'm like not pushing, but I'm explaining to my students the value of, like, as a community, if this is what they are requesting, we have to be respectful of it as a community. Do you have to accept it? Do you have to say that's how you want to live your life? Absolutely not. You don't have to say that's how you want to live your life. But what we do have to do, especially in my classroom and in my space, is we do have to be respectful, and we will respect one another. The same way I have certain students who they don't like their birth name, so they want to choose a nickname, they want to have whatever. It's your right, and we will respect that. So I'm pushing them with respect to respect the students' choices, right? But my students pushed back in the very beginning, and they was like, "Nah, like my mother said," I told my mother said, "Nope, she a girl, and like we gonna call her a girl, and that's it. Like my mother told me this." And as a teacher, I have to respect parents' right to raise their children how they choose. I have to respect that. So I'm not the teacher that's going to be like, "Girl, your mama wrong. Your mama old school thinking she wrong." I can't do that. I'm very, very big on like respecting a parent's right to parent their children. But what I did say was, okay, let's listen, explain to me what your parents said, and explain to me how you feel. And then I allowed the student who is trans to explain his perspective on how he feels. And everyone was listening so intently because they had never actually heard, including myself, they had never actually heard a trans person open up and speak on what it feels like to be trans. And something that this student was saying was that from when she was very, very young, she never felt like she belonged in her body. She said she never felt like she was a girl. She said she never felt connected to her body parts. She never wanted to touch herself. And this is a 13-year-old, which I don't know about y'all, but I'm being 100% transparent. By 13, I had done touched myself. Now, I hadn't let nobody else touch. I was still a virgin, but I hadn't done touched myself by 13. She didn't even want to touch herself. She felt so disconnected from her body and didn't feel like her body belonged to her. She said that according to her, she said she's never experienced any sexual abuse or anything. So that disposes the idea that, oh, maybe she was traumatized and that's why she's disconnected. It disposes that idea. She said she's never experienced any type of sexual trauma or anything like that. But since she was young, she never felt connected. And I asked a lot of questions. I was like, asked everything from like, what did you play with as a child? What examples of women did you grow up around? Like, I'm asking all kind of questions because, of course, these are the things that people say. Like, oh, well, maybe she didn't have a good example of a woman, or maybe she grew up around boys and she just felt like a tomboy. Da, 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 da. These are things. I'm sorry, y'all, my phone is dying, but I'm still gonna keep going till we clock out. But these are things that people say. So I asked all kind of questions, and at the end of the day, what I realized is like, it's not our space to tell you how you feel. I can't tell her how she feels. She's saying she felt this way. I'm not in her body. It's not my choice to make. It's not my choice to make. And unfortunately, her tribe does not, please Sam, stop this betting, non-binary, okay? And that's the thing. And unfortunately, her tribe is not accepting of who she is. And I'm watching her battle that feeling. So now the school, over time, I had to sit down with the grade level team. I had to sit down with her grade level team and like really discuss. I'm a learning specialist. So I'm sitting down talking to multiple people about like, yo, we got to open up this conversation because this child needs a safe space. Her home is not a safe space where she can even have these conversations. So we got to make this school a safe space. Now, this is a child that this is my first year with the school. This is a child that before Brad Pitt's daughter is trans male. Yeah. And I feel like that was that Brad Pitt's child was the person who like broke open the gateway for the white community, but I feel like Dwyane for the white community to have this discussion, but I don't feel like black folks was as connected to that one. Whereas even though she's a black child, whereas I think that black people feel very connected to Dwyane Wade, therefore very connected to his family story, and it's definitely opening up the conversation in the black community of accepting trans children, and I love that. But yeah, it's a mental problem. Simple. And you know what? Honestly, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. You may feel like it's a mental problem, but even if you feel like that, then what you gonna do? What are you going to do? And that's the space that I'm in. Regardless of how we feel about the causes of it or why it's happening or whatever, it's here. LGBTQIA people are here. What are you going to do about it? No matter what you think has caused it or why you think it's happening, it's here. So are you going to disown your family members? Are you going to disown your tribe members? Are you going to divide our community for something that has absolutely nothing to do with you? That is their choice. That is their choice. It's their choice. Our only job as a tribe is to support each other. That's it. And when I say support each other, I just simply mean this. It's not my place to impose the way I want to live my life on anybody else. I prefer men, but I can't tell every woman out here, you better prefer men too. That's not my job. It's my job to live my life how I choose, living my best life. You gotta live your best life. Zaya gotta live her best life. Dwyane Wade gotta live his best life. My student gotta live his best life, so on and so forth. It's not our job to tell other people what their version of truth and what their version of best life is. But what is our job is to support our people in living their truth. That's it. And that's all I'm saying about that situation. But yeah, my whole thing is just like having a safe space and creating a safe space for our people, because I feel like the conversation gets very like, oh, I feel like this, I feel like that, I feel like it's right, I feel like it's wrong, until somebody decides that they no longer want to be here. Until somebody's talking about committing suicide. And what really like started to push the conversation in regard to my student was the idea that he has started talking about committing suicide. Not having a safe space is dangerous. And I think we who have a safe space don't realize the privilege that we have with having a safe space. We who have a community that we can go to, whether it's an internet community, social media community, we all got Facebook groups and Instagram groups and YouTube and all of this stuff, that we have these communities of people who mostly are like-minded individuals that show us love and show us support, whether if it's liking a picture or something. We all got communities, but imagine not having a single safe space. Imagine not having a place where you could go to be yourself and open up and express and share your thoughts and share your feelings without having someone attack you for how you feel. So whether you agree or disagree, my thing for our community as Black folks is that we got to make our community a safe space for us, no matter how we show up. Once again, intersectionality is a real thing. It's a real thing. When I spoke about being a womanist, the difference between a feminist and a womanist is a womanist embraces intersectionality. Feminism is only about gender. A womanist is about being, it's about gender, it's about religion, it's about ethnicity, it's about sexuality, it's about socioeconomic class. So many things encompass who we are and how we manifest as human beings on this planet. Geographical location. So many things impact us. What we have to do as Black folks is we got to create a safe space. And the way that we can create a safe space is by saying, like, you know what? Live your truth and I love you anyway. Whether I agree or disagree with it, you ain't gotta agree with it. And for the person who commented and said that they feel like it's a mental illness or a mental problem, whatever, you ain't gotta agree with it. But can you at least show some love and show some compassion and show some empathy? I know that you're not judging, but that's just how you feel, you know. And I know that you're not judging. But you just saying what you think has caused it. But my thing is, we have to be careful of that because it may be someone who identifies as trans right here in that chat, and that may have hurt them. And that may have harmed them. So before we speak our words and before we type how we feel, before we type our thoughts and speak our thoughts and write our thoughts, we got to be mindful of, is this hurtful to somebody? If it ain't love, don't put it out in the atmosphere, please. If it ain't light, please don't put it out in the atmosphere. This is a wellness-centered community. A wellness-centered community. The intentions of my YouTube, I say again and again and again, is to manifest a wellness-centered community. Before you type anything in the comments, please just ask yourself, is this love? Is this light? We got to create a safe space that's filled with so much love and light that everybody know they good over here as long as you bring in love. Everybody know they good on this block as long as you bring in some light. So what I love about the conversation that Dwyane Wade and Gabrielle Union and Zaya are opening up, as well as Zaya's birth mother are opening up, is this idea of living your truth. And what the conversation we now have to open up, or the extension we have to put on that, is living your truth and knowing that you have a safe space. As a Black community, we got to create safe spaces because who else gonna do it for us? Now, some people said, like, okay, well, he's only 12, or that ain't our choice. That ain't our child. That's not our choice. Now, you may not want your child to express this way at 12, and honestly, that's a different conversation. Him being trans, Zaya being trans, and the way Zaya is expressing as trans are two different conversations. Let me explain that. Zaya being trans and choosing the pronouns her and she and changing her name to Zaya is different than Zaya wearing fingernails and whatever else. Some people had an issue with the fact that she had her nails done and stuff and she's only 12. That's different. That's a different conversation. Now, for me personally, would my 12-year-old child be able to get their nails done? I'm going to keep it a buck with you. I started getting my nails done when I was in 5th grade. I was doing them one hand, one color, one hand, a different color, all that stuff. When I was in 5th grade, I was getting dyeing my hair and all of that in 5th grade. My family, I've always been a creator. I've always been an artist. Everything that you see back here, all the paintings and stuff, I did myself. I've always been a creative. I've always been an artist. My family, I'm blessed to have a family who allowed me to artistically express myself. So when I wanted to and I also wasn't sexually promiscuous. I wasn't that tight. I wasn't like that. You know what I'm saying? So and my family knew that. I wasn't worried about that. It was literally just me expressing myself artistically. So would I allow my child to do it at 12? Absolutely. You know, as long as my child has their head on straight, getting good grades, I also was an honor roll student, you know, I wouldn't mind my child doing that, but you have the right to choose for your child. If you wouldn't want your child expressing themselves in that way at 12 years old, that's a different conversation. Cool, I get that. But then saying like, oh, but my child can't be trans at 12. Guess what? If your child want to be trans at 12, without whether you like it or not, they're going to be trans. It's just about whether or not you are going to accept it. That's the conversation we got to have. You should be a safe space for your child. I had to be a safe space for my nieces and nephews because I don't come from a family that's with it. My family is still very much like anti-LGBTQ. Honestly, I'm keeping it a buck. Anybody in my family who watching this know I'm telling the truth. We still have these conversations. And I come from a multi-religious family where one of my aunts is Jehovah's Witness. My mother at one point was a Christian minister. My father grew up Catholic. We got Muslims. We got Israelites. I come from a multi-religious family, and they all agree that they not with the LGBTQIA thing. I was the first person to open up the conversation. And honestly, the last conversation I had with my mother, and I'm being all the way real, I haven't seen my mother in almost 7 years. Seen or heard from my mother in almost 7 years. We had an argument about LGBTQIA community. My niece and nephew was at the table. My nephew was a baby, but my niece was of age. She was like 11 years old at the time. We had a conversation, and my mother basically was like saying that it's wrong, it's disgusting, da 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 da. I was like, Ma, you can't, like, that's mean. The same thing I just said, like, Ma, that's hurtful, that's mean, like that hurts somebody's feelings, like you can't put that out there. And my intentions with saying that was, at that young of an age for my niece, I was even thinking to myself, like, yo, you don't know what she gonna be. She's old enough to understand what you're saying, and she herself may be having feelings. So you can't say that. You can't say that around her. Like, that's toxic. Because I wanted my nieces and nephews to know that you got a safe space over here. If ain't nobody gonna hold you down, I'ma hold you down. Guess what? I'm gonna tell you this years later, and I'm sorry for my niece because I'm putting your business out there. But years later, my niece identifies as bisexual. My niece remembers that conversation I had with my mother. My niece came out to me. My niece, literally, we was on the phone a couple weeks ago. You know what my niece said? She said, if I don't have nobody else support, I know I got yours. That's the power of being a safe space. That's the power. 7 years ago, I had that conversation, just even considering that she might one day have these feelings. Never spoke to her about it or nothing. We never even talked about the conversation until very recently. And she came out to me. You gotta be a safe space. Because if that person has nowhere else to go, they need to know that they're gonna come to you. That's what you call manifesting as love. That's what you call manifesting as light. It's funny how a lot of people say, oh, God bless me with peace. Oh, God, I want peace of mind. Oh, God, I want to be happy. Oh, God, I want to be joy. But do you manifest as joy? Do you manifest as love? Do you manifest as peace? Do you manifest as light? That's all that encompasses a safe space. Once again, you don't have to choose those things for your life. If you disagree with it, then you don't live like that. But that don't mean that you can't love and have compassion and have empathy for someone who chooses the things that you disagree with. That's what you call agreeing to disagree. And moving on. Be love, y'all. Be a safe space. If we are truly a community, we got to show up with our arms open and say, yo, I love you. Somebody who may be different, who may choose different, we got to say, yo, I love you. And embrace them in that way. I'm loving the fact that y'all are having, I'm paying, even though I'm not reading all the comments aloud, I'm paying attention, and I love the fact that y'all are having this conversation and pushing each other's thinking. Because that's also what we got to do as a community, is we got to push each other's thinking. You know, we got to push each other's thinking on these topics. And that's how we grow. That's how you really become woke and conscious and aware, moving beyond being woke, moving beyond being conscious, truly, truly deep down inside being aware. Being aware. And just real quick, when you are aware, that means you have activated the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious mind. Okay? There are 3 sets: your conscious, your subconscious, and your unconscious mind. When you are aware, you've activated all 3. So I love the fact that y'all are pushing each other's thinking, and we are having these conversations, because that's what this community is here for. And I love y'all, and I appreciate y'all for embracing each other in this way, and most importantly, keeping it love and keeping it light. And look what this conversation started over. A 12-year-old child just choosing to live in their truth. 12 years old, choosing to live in their truth. And without even knowing it, I don't know if they know it. I don't know if Zaya knows it. But without even maybe realizing it, shaking up the world. Shaking up the world. And I love that. So keep pushing the conversation. Have these conversations with your family, with your friends, with your community, with your tribes. I'm bringing it back to my sister circle, but have these conversations. I'm having it at the school that I work with. Bring it up at your job, especially with black folks. Bring this up. Bring it to your church. I did somebody bring it to their church and tell me how it went. I ain't gonna front. I'll be a little scared to bring it to the church. Bring it to your church and tell me how it go. If you're part of the choir, bring it up at the choir service. Okay, because I'm a little nervous. So I'll be a little hesitant to bring it up at the choir. So, church still is a little, even though the choir director, some of the choir members, but I'm a little nervous about the church. But somebody bring it at church, and then you tell me how that go. Okay? I'm scared. Take it to the Potter's house. All right? Shout out to TD Jakes. I'm scared, okay? But much love to y'all. I'm about to get out of here. I got to charge my phone. I am going to go live later on, though, to talk about the Jussie Smollett situation. He was indicted again. So I want to know if y'all feel like they're dragging it. Do y'all feel like he deserves to be indicted? Do y'all feel like he's telling the truth, or is he lying? Really, let's have that conversation and dive deep on these stories. I'll probably either go live with that later tonight. Not too late tonight, though. I got to work tomorrow. But later tonight or tomorrow. Thank you again for all of y'all love and support. I appreciate this energy, and I appreciate y'all. Oh, y'all, real quick. We are over 3,000 subscribers. I'm so happy about that. And I'm thankful for all of the subscribers, all of my new subscribers, all of my dedicated day one subscribers, everybody. I'm so grateful. And really quick, let me just tell you the value of this beyond just like a number and beyond just having subscribers. You guys, my students are watching this happen in real life. Thank you so much, Kelly. I have students who follow me, who are subscribed to me, and literally they ask me on a regular basis, Miss Poe, how many subscribers do you have? Miss Poe, how many subscribers do you have now? And the reason that this is such a conversation amongst my students is because when I first started working at this place, which was the beginning of the school year, August of last year, I brought up the topic of manifestation. And I always talk to my kids about chakras and alignment and energy and all of that stuff. And I was explaining the energy you put out is the energy you get back. And I told them I have a YouTube. And at the time, I was at maybe 1,000 something subscribers. And one of my students was like, don't worry, one day you'll have 2,000, maybe by the end of next year. They said by the end of 2020, I would have 2,000 subscribers. Bringing in 2020, I had over 2,000. And I showed them, because when they told me next year you'll have it, I was I think bigger than that. So by the start of 2020, I had it. One of my students, he started 2020. I showed him look, I made it over 2,000. And he was like, okay, by the end of 2020, maybe you'll be at 4,000. I was like, it's going to happen sooner than that. Watch. And we are already at I think 3.2. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate that love. And my students are so hyped. And what it really is for them is a testament of growth and a testament of manifestation, and a testament of believing in yourself, right? So thank y'all, because without even knowing it, not only are y'all inspiring change within me and helping me, y'all are really teaching young people that y'all may never ever see or hear from, but y'all are teaching young people the power of manifestation. So I truly, genuinely appreciate your support, and I thank y'all. Much love. Have a good night, y'all. My phone probably on 1% at this point. Okay, much love. Hey, Moni Love. Good evening. But love, y'all. Appreciate you. Much peace.